Thank you for watching this Sound Off with SEC country writer Zach Abolverdi and Jordan McPherson, presented by Zaxby's. Zaxby's indescribably good, and it has been a whirlwind week here in Gainesville, Florida. There was already a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation at the start of the week for Florida's season opener against Michigan, but over the last 24 hours, there has been a lot of news with this football team. Jim McElwain met with the media on Wednesday after news broke that two more players, Jordan Scarlett and Rick Wells, were added to the list of the 7 players who were suspended for the reported credit card incident. That now makes a total of 10, with James Robinson as well with his marijuana citation. So not the way Florida wanted to go into the season for its first game, but there was some other news today, and probably in reaction to that negative news, Jim McElwain decided to take the podium today and name who he's going to start at quarterback, and that was Felipe Franks. So we'll talk about those two things as well as how it impacts the Gators and what it means for them in this game. But Jordan, first of all, your reaction to the news today, starting with Jordan Scarlett.
Well, I was honestly shocked about the fact that Jordan Scarlett got suspended, mainly due to the fact that we talked to him after practice on Tuesday. Yeah. McElwain spoke on the teleconference Wednesday morning around 11:30, and raved about the guy, basically saying that he's had a great camp. He's going to have a big impact on the team this year. And then 4 hours after that, we get the notification that he's suspended along with Rick Wells. So not just the fact that he's suspended, but look at who else is suspended. You lost your top running back now and your top wide receiver going into the biggest season opener Florida's had in over 30 years. It's not the way that Florida wanted to start its 2017 season, McElwain's 3rd year of the program, the year where he needs to make an impact and make an impact fast.
Now, there's a lot of ways to look at this. Now, for me, I think that Callaway and Scarlett are probably, or at least arguably, Florida's top 2 offensive playmakers. And so now you're without that for this game if you're the Gators. I do think, though, as big as those guys are, that it is still something that they can survive. It's going to hurt their offense and their production against the Wolverines, and I think that if they would have been at full strength offensively, Florida would have really had an opportunity to put up points in this game. Maybe they still will. Maybe Felipe Franks has a breakout performance, or some of these other guys step up in their absence. But Jordan, for me, as I look at this and try to really make sense of it, I think the thing that's most disappointing, what they did is not the end of the world. There's a lot of other worse things that they could have done, but nonetheless, this is an alarming thing to think that it's something that the players thought that they could get away with. But what's the most disappointing and probably frustrating for Jim McElwain is that he had 2 juniors in Callaway and Scarlett who, from all indications were involved in something like in this, and you would think that in this situation, as upperclassmen, as leaders, as the top 2 offensive playmakers on this team, that they would have, tried to keep this from happening. And they would have been the older guys who stepped up, showed some leadership, and told the younger guys, hey, we're not going to do this. This is wrong. We could get in trouble. So the fact that didn't happen, that's a bit of a concern. And it's something that Jim McElwain is going to have to address and deal with this football team.
And also you have to add in the fact that this isn't the first offense for either of them. Jordan Scarlett was suspended from the Citrus Bowl against Michigan, ironically, his freshman year for marijuana citation. And Antonio Callaway has all of the off-the-field issues that we've elaborated on in writing and on the videos from his first 2 years. So, again, like you said, Zach, you would have assumed that they would have known better by now. They've had their first strike or potentially second strike.
You just wrote a story about Scarlett and how he was a guy that is trying to teach Robinson from the mistakes, and he made that same mistake. So now it is important to keep in mind for fans out there, especially watching this video, that this is something that happened months ago. So this is not a mistake that was made this month or especially within this last week. So it's not like the players didn't have focus on this game. That is something that is noteworthy, but nonetheless, it's disappointing for Jim McElwain to have to take the podium for like you said, Jordan, such a big game, such a big moment for his program, and that he has to answer questions about this. It's just not what he wanted. But you said, Jordan, if this doesn't happen, he probably doesn't name the starting quarterback today. And I agree with you. And we'll talk about that now, because Jim McElwain said earlier in the week, Jordan, that he was not going to reveal his plan, that it made sense for him to keep Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan staff in the dark as to who his starting quarterback was going to be. But with the week that and the camp that Felipe Franks has had, with the news that came out certainly Wednesday, and as McElwain said, there are no secrets in this business. And going through the week with him as a starter, it would have got out there somehow or another. And I think McElwain just wanted to let everyone know what the plan was, but also do something to kind of take attention away from the negative news that was out there.
Yeah, definitely. And with the fact that he had to tie in the openness fact about the suspensions and that they aren't going to hide anything from that, it would have been kind of hypocritical for him if he was to continue to hide who the quarterback is.
Sure.
So basically with that, he showed his cards, and it was Felipe Franks, and he said it was because of Felipe Franks' entire body of work dating back to the spring, and added in the fact that both Luke Del Rio and Malik Zaire are a little bit off for different reasons. Del Rio still coming back from all of the injuries he had last year, and Malik Zaire coming in late, not starting, taking record team until the summer.
Yeah.
So the fact that Felipe Franks had the experience and had the successful spring was what elevated him. And when McElwain was asked, how do you think he's going to react starting his first collegiate game at such a big stadium? They're playing in Jerry World here, 100,000 people, that huge
Tough
scoreboard. McElwain's response was, well, he played in big games before, and he's got a big arm to go with it. So he's confident in Felipe Franks, which he was confident in him at the end of the spring. So now it's just a matter of seeing how it translates on Saturday.
Well, and here's the other thing, Jordan. In my opinion, I just think that he's not concerned about his quarterback position. I think that it's probably not even in the top 3 to 5 things that are going to be on his plate when he gets to game day and is having to worry about the things that he's going to worry about. I think that he really feels good about his quarterback room, as he's like to put it. Now, with Franks getting the start, it's big for him. For him to earn that job, he really must have had to do a lot in fall camp, because he did have that competition that you mentioned, Jordan. And to have Malik come in and have the team and the fan base so excited about this new guy, and Franks wasn't even talked about at media day, Jordan. No one even talked about him. And then certainly Del Rio, he comes in as the 2016 starter. That's somebody that Franks had to contend with. So you have to think that he was really pushed in this competition. I have to think also exactly what Jim McElwain wanted. Now, this is not set in stone. He's going to start the game. I think we're going to see Malik Zaire not only against Michigan, but most likely in every game in some form or fashion, because they brought him here to have him be a part of this offense. But I do think that Franks will have a short leash, and he's going to get in the game. But if a quarter goes by or a few series, Jordan, things aren't moving offensively, McElwain does have Zaire to go to. He has Del Rio if it comes to that point, and that's why I think that he feels no concern about how Franks is going to handle this environment, because if he can't, he's not crippled. He has somebody else he can go to.
Yeah, definitely. And also the fact that regardless of who the quarterback was or was going to be, they have the weapons around them. Granted, you lost Scarlett and you lost Callaway, but once the season progresses, you still have depth at those positions. At running back, you have LaMichael Pirine, who was a solid number 2 guy for Scarlett last year, emerged as a true freshman. You have Mark Thompson going into a redshirt senior year, transferred in, played a little bit last year. Had some up and down performances, but showed that if he's on his game, he has the chance. And then Malik Davis really impressed at the running back position as well.
And Lemons too.
Yeah, Lemons as well. And then the running back, or the wide receiver spots, Tyree Cleveland, Josh Hammond, Freddie Swain, Dre Massey, who, remember, he only played 1 half last year, but was supposed to be a huge part of that playbook. DeQuan Green is a true freshman. Brandon Powell. And then at tight end, you have DeAndre Goolsby and Deontay Lewis. You have weapons around you, so regardless of who the quarterback was, they have the weapons to succeed. And they have the opportunities to do it. It's just, you have to put up or shut up at this point.
Definitely. And we'll close things with just how this impacts the Gators. There's been so much news now. Florida has a total of 10 players who will miss this game. We now know who will start for the Gators at quarterback. We don't know how the game is going to play out. Jordan, what are your expectations for just overall everything that's happened? Just Florida had such a seemingly uneventful offseason where everything was going good. They had recruiting momentum. They had all the buzz that came from the spring. They get Malik Zaire in. There was just so much positive momentum and energy out there. And now to have this happen, just how do you think Florida handles all that? And how does some of these losses impact them in this game, if at all?
Well, in terms of the game, I feel like a lot more pressure is going to be put on that young defense now, especially when your 2 biggest playmakers on offense are gone. You're going to need that defensive line: C.C. Jefferson, Taven Bryan, Kerry Clark, Jabari Zuniga. The list goes on there. Those young linebackers: David Reese, Jeremiah Moon, and Vosan Joseph. Kylan Johnson might not even play. He's day-to-day right now. And then your secondary, where you might see most, if not all, of those 6 true freshmen. They're going to have to step up really fast on the biggest stage right away. And then the offense, you're going to need to see that depth and the unproven depth they need to prove themselves fast.
And it's going to be a test. And we're going to know a lot about this football team when we see how they handle this, too. It's not just now that they're playing in Jerry World, but they're playing against Michigan, that they have a challenging season opener. Now they have a bunch of adversity that they've dealt with. They have this negative news that's out there. They have to respond, show resiliency. What I'm interested in, I think that even with the loss of Callaway and Scarlett, like you said, Jordan, they still should have enough playmakers to be productive on offense. Will they be as good as they would have been? Probably not. But I think it would have hurt them a lot more to lose Martez Ivey or Jawan Taylor or Felipe Franks for this game than it would have been some of those guys. Now, again, I still think, though, that Callaway and Scarlett are the two best playmakers. But I'll say this. What's going to be interesting to me and what I'm going to watch for is how their absence, and specifically Scarlett, because I thought that Florida was going to really lean on him in the ground game, particularly for this matchup. And now that you don't have that, you're starting a young quarterback. He's a redshirt freshman. It's his first game. Does that affect his success rate? Does Scarlett not being in there, Callaway not being in there, does that hinder Franks at all? More importantly, does it affect how McElwain maybe adjusts his quarterback plan and how he decides to use the three options that he has there? So there is going to be so much to look for in this game. We were already looking forward to it, Jordan, and now it's here. There's so many storylines, but at least we have some football that we're going to watch in less than 72 hours. So thank you for watching this Sound Off with SEC Country writer Zach Abolverdi and Jordan McPherson, presented by Zach's.